Preeti, we can start.
Okay. Let's let Dr. Basavaraddi come back. I think you can unmute. Will you? Should we just wait for a minute for the High Commissioner to also join?
Yes, I am here at your command, and I'm right there.
Thank you very much. Namaste and pranam to all of you and to all our viewers who are joining us right now. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to this very special edition, Yoga, the Breath of Life, Healing and Recovery in the Times of COVID-19. This session is hosted by the Indian High Commission as a part of a special series to celebrate the 6th International Day of Yoga. Before I introduce our distinguished panelists, please allow me to recite a very brief chant from the Upanishads to set the tone for this evening. Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from untruth to truth, from darkness to light, from ignorance to enlightenment, and from mortality to immortality. May there be peace, peace, peace. I think this message is very important in these times of COVID, something that the Indian Prime Minister has tried to propagate through this International Day of Yoga. Since taking office in 2014, he has spearheaded and revived yoga globally. He has helped in establishing this International Day of Yoga on June 21st since 2015, following its inception in the United Nations General Assembly in 2014. He has highlighted through yoga the message of peace, harmony, and balance as the very embodiment of India's cultural DNA. There is little doubt that yoga is probably the greatest offering and export of India to the world. Its practice is helping heal today thousands and millions of coronavirus patients across the globe. We are told that they are practicing pranayam, the breathing exercise, to strengthen their immune and respiratory systems. Yoga has also emerged as a force of unity, cutting across race, religion, and gender. To promote yoga globally, the Indian Prime Minister relies on some of India's most able diplomats around the world. We are very lucky to have amongst us today one of them who's probably the most outstanding of all in Singapore. His Excellency, the High Commissioner of India, Mr. Javed Ashraf. He has served in Frankfurt, Berlin, and Washington, D.C. Our Consul General has been an outstanding diplomat and has worked very, very hard, as we all know, on our behalf to strengthen India-Singapore diplomacy in trade, culture, and defense. Yoga has been a very key aspect of his diplomacy, and today we will hear how he has spread the message and practice of yoga in Singapore. Our next speaker is a distinguished person who has supported Prime Minister Modi's effort in India. A physicist by training, Dr. Ishwar Basavaraddi is the director of Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga in the Ministry of Ayush in the Government of India. He is one of India's most eminent scholars, a fine teacher, and a very committed practitioner who, along with his institute, has trained hundreds and thousands of teachers and students in yoga in India and abroad. Our third speaker is Sujata Cowlagi, who's a globally renowned yoga teacher and a trainer on holistic and integrative health. She holds a master's degree in yoga with a gold medal and is an advisor to multiple international organizations in public health. She has trained some of the most reputed global institutions in yoga. These include banks, multinational and multilateral institutions. She's also the founder and director of Pragya Yoga and Wellness. Finally, Amita Chaudhury joins us today. She's a yoga and wellness enthusiast and a senior advisor on sustainability for the United Nations Global Compact. So with that, it gives me great pleasure to have our first speaker, speak to us for a couple of minutes on the significance of this International Day of Yoga, especially as we're celebrating it in Singapore. High Commissioner Javed Ashraf, over to you.
Well, namaskar to everyone. I thought you were going to start with question and answer, but anyway, I'm quite.
I've asked you about what you
say this, but again, Sujata, you've always impressed me with your both passion, knowledge, and expertise in yoga, and the task you have taken upon yourself to spread the practice of yoga, teach people its benefits, and in many ways making such a big difference to people's lives, making them healthier and certainly happier. Delighted to have with us Dr. Ishwar Basavaraddi. Again, I mean, it is only because of this power of technology that we are able to get the best of the best people who are really, again, it's so important to understand that as in every field, you need to have the access to the best in a particular area for you to be able to really understand its full benefits. Whether you're going to a doctor, if you're going to a consultant, if you're going to even someone who's your hairstylist or even your dress designer, you do need to have the best. And therefore, we are very privileged to have two of them over here with us and for this distinguished audience. Now, I think you, as you said in your introductory remarks, that it was Prime Minister Narendra Modi who, in his maiden address to the United Nations General Assembly in September 2014, and I was there with him at that point of time, and we discussed this before that, and I was quite astonished because this is not something that people do as part of their normal diplomatic practice, or leaders suggest something like this when they're making their maiden address to the United Nations General Assembly. But he was very convinced about the need to promote yoga, not because he was trying to foist Indian tradition or Indian culture on the rest of the world. But he says this is the ancient gift of India to the world, but it is a heritage now that belongs to the entire world. And it is and when he gave the speech, I mean, he anchored his call for yoga, I remember distinctly, in saying that it will make us better human beings. And because we will be better human beings, we can help build better societies, a more peaceful world, and certainly a more sustainable planet. And sustainable planet because he said that the surest way to sustainability is to reduce consumption or to change our lifestyle. So the cleanest energy is the energy that is not consumed. And he said that, look, I mean, we can imagine and recreate the world to make it more sustainable. This is the reason why he said, let's just declare June 21st as the International Day of Yoga. And it is again another astonishing record in the United Nations that a record 177 countries co-sponsored the resolution. It was adopted unanimously in December 2014 within a period of 100 days. Anyone who knows United Nations knows that a resolution can take forever to get adopted. And this again showed many things. One, of course, that the capacity of human beings, even living in a world of divisions and disputes, frictions and fault lines, to come together across their boundaries for pursuit of a common good. And really, yoga, in a sense, is something which has now been embraced by the world. And after that, even those, I remember many leaders telling him, he says, you know, I'm going to learn yoga. And some leaders would tell him, you know, I practice yoga. So this became an important conversation piece. Now imagine today, there is no other activity in the world which is observed or celebrated in all 193 member states of the United Nations and more, in hundreds and hundreds of cities. And it is growing every year. So from 2015, we've been observing this. And this year, despite the restrictions of this pandemic, despite the lockdown, despite the safe distancing measures, there is no reduction in the fervor and the passion with which the International Day of Yoga is being celebrated around the world. Now, in Singapore is again a unique case because, when we started this in Singapore, there has been a tendency in every city to choose an iconic venue, let's say Eiffel Tower or Times Square or Trafalgar Square, Hyde Park, wherever there is, and have a massive gathering with great photographs. Now, we did that here in a couple of years in National Stadium. But I felt that we needed to take yoga closer to the people, not make it look like one big event that we are doing, and involve everyone in this exercise, because Singapore is blessed to have a really large pool of extremely talented, extremely good yoga instructors, yoga schools, as well as Ayurveda. I mean, it really is something which is striking. So we decided.
Sorry to interrupt, but is there any estimate for audience to know how many there would be, roughly, yoga institutes and trainers and teachers in Singapore?
I'll come to that. I was just going to come to it. And, so we decided we'd take it to different communities. Not yet. Last year we had yoga is 180 sessions in 120 venues in Singapore. Now, 120 venues means 1 per 6 square kilometers. That has to be the highest density and a world record anywhere. So, some things that struck at me, we did this in, homes for elderly, and where people were in wheelchair, 80, and the joy on their faces doing this. We went to institutions, for example, an institute where old people recovering from mental illnesses spend time. They're doing yoga. We went to schools, we went to hospitals, we went to police institutions. I mean, even Changi Airport, where travelers are stressed, and also some of the other iconic places, but schools, colleges, hospitals, elderly care, everywhere. Community centers. And this was also possible because SG Active and Narpani, two grassroots organizations, joined us in this. Besides, you'd be amazed, 40 organizations. Yeah. And this year, we have more than 100 online sessions. More than 100 online sessions by 40 participating organizations. And there's such wonderful attendance in each of them. We've got 4 webinars, including this one with such wonderful speakers. And every year we do one Ayurveda conference. We've had one this time as well. And again, I think I feel that what Prime Minister started is becoming a global movement, in a time when we think of so many negative international developments, when we think of all the friction that is there in this world now, internal turmoil, external conflicts, tensions. I mean, this is one thing that is uniting the world across every dimension of human existence, as you mentioned, race, color, religions, across nations. So everywhere today, someone or the other at every time zone is doing yoga. And what can be a better tribute to essential oneness of mankind, that great cosmic oneness, which is the essence of Indian philosophical tradition, than to see the world uniting behind yoga. So this is, something which is cherished, and it's what is it doing? Everybody today is now becoming conscious of healthcare. And in the time of pandemic, and this is important, we have 3 kinds of challenges. One, of course, is that people have become far more conscious about preventive healthcare, right? Immunity, resilience, ability to recover quickly if you get from something in infection. That's one set of concerns. The second set of concern is about, okay, even in a very normal way, how do I keep myself fit if I'm locked inside the house, right? And how do I manage to do everything, maintain flexibility, mobility, strength, endurance, and balance, and all the other things that we do in fitness. And the third is very important, that there is this pandemic has not just had an extracted an economic toll, besides a health crisis, it has also had profound social, psychological, and emotional impact and consequences. People have been isolated. People have been anxious about their future, about their jobs, about their livelihood. People are worried about the loved ones they can't touch, they can't meet, they can't take care of. So there is a tendency towards anxiety, towards depression, towards a sense of isolation and uncertainty. So I think yoga is again, a great way to deal with all three parameters of the issues that I've raised that pandemic has thrown up. At the psychological, emotional level, at your basic physical level, and at the level of your overall health and well-being and wellness. So this actually should accelerate the adoption of yoga, and I'd say also Ayurveda, which has many benefits also with this. So again, I mean, thank you for Preeti for moderating this, and thank you to Ishwarji and to Sujata and Amita for coming together for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those wonderful remarks. And, you know, it's a very hopeful note that you have said that maybe this will accelerate the practice and adoption of yoga worldwide, and people will benefit from it to not only combat this pandemic, but boost their overall immunity and well-being worldwide. I would like to talk now to Dr. Ishwar Basavaraddi. Thank you so much for joining us. We've heard that 12 crore people have tuned in digitally on International Day of Yoga. Could you tell us a little bit about that? How did you organize that? What has the response been in India?
Dr. Basavaraddi, could you unmute yourself, please? Preeti, in the meantime, perhaps if our audience have any questions, you could use the Q&A function. This is an interactive session, and it would be wonderful, I'm sure, for you to ask your questions to the distinguished panel of guests. So while Dr. Basavaraddi gets back online, I'm sure Preeti can carry on.
Actually, I just wanted to come back to the High Commissioner to ask him, you know, the Eastern wisdom tradition of yoga and Tai Chi have much in common. And I wonder what are your thoughts on this, and has there been a two-way integration or conversations? Have you seen a confluence of the two in Singapore while you've been here?
I was just discussing East and West with, I had this 1 hour long conversation with EPF Hensley, and one of these issues was this, and not related to yoga, but also with Minister Indrani Raja a while back. So the last 2 hours I've been in front of a screen. First, I don't know enough about that. I've only seen it. I know a little bit about it. So I haven't experienced it, able to give my own views on it. But I would say that there are fundamental, I mean, while they say a lot of things in common, that they focus on health, calmness, psychological benefits, focus, concentration, flexibility, strength, health, etc. But that is also in martial arts. And yoga in no way is telling you to prepare all this for martial arts, right? I mean, so this is a path to peace, even not for violence, for self-defense. Also, this is so whatever may be the end outcomes that we're talking about, we're also talking about the fundamentally. I mean, Asian systems have lots of common threads. I mean, for example, the existence of man and nature. They're very different from the Western way we look at the existence of man and nature, and many other things. But I think we must distinguish the two, though they tend to look similar to a naked eye and then seeing it. But I think they're very important core difference between them.
Yeah, thank you for saying. Actually, one of the most beautiful aspects of walking around in Singapore is to see people practicing yoga and Tai Chi side by side. And so, I think this is
That Singapore's that is the beauty of Singapore. In 719 square kilometer, it embraces the entire diversity of the world, and that it has nurtured the various strands of its diversity and woven them into a very lustrous fabric. And so you will see this all the time. And I've captured this in a series of photographs which I've made into a video.
That would be wonderful. On that last note, I think that you had organized recently, well, a few months back, a confluence of India and I guess the Chinese culture with Ustad Amjad Ali Khan and the Chinese orchestra. So, in that spirit, I hope that we can have many more such
Yes.
symbiotic events in Singapore to see what are the commonalities. So I
I
think
think we have Dr. Ishwar
yes.
Basava now. So let's hear
Well,
from him.
welcome back. I asked you about how did the International Day of Yoga go in India. Congratulations. Once again, I hear it was a huge success. So please talk to us about it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. You have unmuted, that's why I'm not able. Now it's okay. Thank you. Shall I chant one small prayer and I will start?
Absolutely.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. His Excellency, Sri Ashraf ji, my esteemed friend Sujata, and dear Preeti, and all the participants participating in the webinar. My pranams to you are namaskar. At the outset, I congratulate the Indian High Commissioner for taking this initiative to organize this webinar on the eve of International Day of Yoga, 6th International Day of Yoga. And we have a special respect for the Singapore. Singapore is the hub of yoga, and hundreds of fitness clubs and studios, wellness centers are promoting yoga and as a fitness or wellness. That's why we have a special respect for Singapore people. So once again, hi Singapore, and my best wishes on the eve of International Day of Yoga. So you have rightly pointed out, and His Excellency has pointed out, because from the 2014, I'm very fortunate to be part of this diplomatic group who have proposed it to pick up to the initiatives, and then our Sri Vikas Swarupji, now he's secretary here, and he was our joint secretary, and several other diplomats who were moving it. So as it is, it's less than 100 days, we got it resolved. The most significant word they have mentioned it is yoga. They consider it as a holistic well-being. So that is most important, and every word signifies and dignity of and importance of yoga in the resolutions of UN General Assembly in 2014, December 11. It's a significant day in the history of yoga. That's one thing. So there are three things happened. I will come to this here. One is the getting it resolved in UN Assembly to declare as International Day of Yoga, June 21st. So once again, is all the under the able leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister. His passion for yoga, everybody knows that. The second one is when we got it resolved, we have several meetings here, how to celebrate it, how to make a mass movement. So then ultimately we come up with a small common yoga protocol, because yoga has several schools. Now I am talking about styles. So Iyengar yoga, Vikram yoga, Swish yoga, they are styles of yoga, they are not schools. So we have several schools, Jnana yoga, Bhakti yoga, Raj yoga, Hatha yoga. Very classical schools are there, and thousands of practices. And bringing them and proposing a single common protocol where every religion, Even there was a controversy about chanting Om. Now I chanted very freely. So all these things we are overcome by consultation. It took a lot of time for us. And on this occasion, I remember the very dignified manner the late our Sushma Swaraj madam. She is very kind enough to lead all these yoga masters and our honorable minister, Sri Nike, and then our secretary, Sanyal Saab. So it's a very significant. I'll come to you just because that 45 minutes yoga protocol is a very significant development in the celebrations. And third significant in my way. So how to celebrate it? We started with 5,000, 6,000 like this, but I propose 80,000. People were laughing, but we made it happen in 1 month time, and more than 40,000 people practiced. And the most important thing is the Honorable Prime Minister came down and practiced along with the public. It has become the event. Now after that, it is a mass event. It is not only 10,000, it's the lakhs and lakhs of people. Swami Ramdevji went on to have a 5 lakh people in Ahmedabad in 2018. So that is the craze has been developed. These are the three significance now in this pandemic situation. So now there are more than 5,000 organizations, the smaller and bigger ones. There are more than 20 leading yoga institutions. If you take the Patanjali Yoga itself, they have 10 lakh yoga teachers. Even if you take only teachers, 50 or 100 families, you can calculate how many they can reach out. Shri has given a figure of nearly 1 crore people have been joined the study. So same thing with Yash Vyasa, the Gayatri Parivar. There are 20 big leading organizations they are leading. And we have 5,000 listed centers. So in our YCB Yoga Certification Board, yesterday we have registered, we have a campaign there. I have already got 3,000 registered forms from the organization. So that means we are expecting nearly more than, last year it was 13 crores. So this time it may go to doubling that because people are practicing at home, and we have taken the initiative to all the DD channels, Doordarshan channels live from 7 to 7:55. And then this year, Honorable Prime Minister taken as new issue, My Life, My Yoga. So we have got more than 50,000 videos of 3 minutes each in a record time of 10 days.
Wow,
so it's a very
fantastic.
significant.
Yeah.
That's 50,000 videos of 3 minutes, and they're all corners of the. Then this time, yoga at home, yoga with family. So last moment we have taken this initiative, and I think so. Today we have a preliminary reports of around 9 to 10 crores, but tomorrow when you got the complete thing, the number may go up. That means the three decisions has been taken. One is the resolution, second is the common yoga protocol, third one is the mass participation led by the Honorable Prime Minister. Now it has become the mass movement. In my opinion, in the last 5 years, this 45 minutes yoga protocol has been practiced by more than 27 crore people. Wow. 27 crore people have been practiced it during last 5 years in one form or the other. They may be modifying a little bit here and there, included Surya Namaskara or something. So this has become the biggest mass movement of yoga wellness movement.
That's
so
fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. I actually want you to explain to us a little bit more about how does this common yoga protocol work? What is it, and how do people get to practice it? Is it online? Is it on your website?
Yeah. So common yoga protocol, we have one is we have a videos. So we have videos even in 6 UN language, 8 UN languages in 2016. We have produced it. Last year we have revised it. So these English and Hindi, they are in the website of the Ministry of Ayush and also in our website. So in all 16 Indian languages, regional languages also, we have produced these DVDs are there. So this year after this, we are taking up this almost all as many as foreign languages. We are translating them and made it available to the people. One. Then we are coming up with a Yum app application. So where this common yoga protocol is coming in an app mode, where each practices are going to give an education. Suppose in the DVD you will learn, it is a flow, you are taking it one practice in a minute or sometime less than 1 minute. but we need to teach them. So each practice 3 minutes, which is going to 90 minutes. Teaching models are also we are coming up in the YUMF application by the WHO. So my institute is one of the WHO collaborative center for yoga. It's the only one center in the entire world. So where we are taking up these such type of initiative for the mass movement. Now yoga has become a mass movement.
I was told that you are, for people like us who live outside of India, when we visit India, we go to, say, the Bihar School of Yoga or Isha Yoga or Sri Sri. And I understand that under your ministry, you have brought together all these fantastic yoga teachers to be able to streamline and better explain their processes to people like us. Because there is some confusion about it. Once people come to yoga, they're not clear who to go to, what practice to do. So how do you demystify that, and how is your ministry help to clarify that?
So once we did two initiatives, and myself from the 2008, 2006, I joined this institution as a director in 2005. So in 2006, I have taken initiative to bring all these yoga institutions under one platform. With the ministry support, we have formed Indian Yoga Association, a self-regulatory body. Now Dr. Nagendra is leading, Dr. Swami Ramdevji is the chairperson of the body council. The second initiative we have taken is the Yoga Certification Board, because formal education has been given by the universities, schools, colleges in terms of diploma degrees, bachelor's degrees, master degrees. But these gurus are conducting Guru Shishya Parampara, teacher and disciple mode of platform. There may be 1 week program, 3 weeks program. They modified according, suppose a Singapore group is coming only for 5 days. So they will design the courses and impart the education to motivate them. Now, through Yoga Certification Board, we start recognizing all these yoga institutions. We bring some synergy in them, and we are giving 200 hours protocol instructor, wellness instructor, yoga teacher, yoga master, therapist. Like this, we make it 7 to 9 categories, and we are giving 30% scope for these institutions. So now they are all coming, and we recorded, we registered them, accredit them under the Yoga Certification Board of Ministry of Five. So I am also the Chief Executive Officer of that board. So now like this, we are synergy. That means they can teach their teachings, but 70% of the common things, so they have to teach. That is the most wonderful thing. So now slowly it is picking up. Now more than 50 organizations have been accredited, and we have more than 3,000 evaluators, and we have more than 12,000 registered practitioners. So within 6 months or by the end of December, I am going to have a 50,000 registered practitioners from this Yoga Certification Board. So it is not only confined to India, it's a global entity, and even in Japan, in Germany, and other parts of the country also, Italy, and they have also accredited the institutions are there. Slowly, because it's a government organization, so we don't have any business in it. So only thing we want to give a guidelines, not regulate. Yoga cannot be regulated because yoga is our culture. Culture cannot be regulated. If you give it freedom, then it will flourish.
Right.
So therefore, but yes, but it is also related to wellness and health. Therefore, we need some guidelines so that it can be given without any problem to the common people. Because public, whenever we are dealing with the public health and public health guidelines to be followed, so that has been followed by our ministry very systematically. At the same time, giving a freedom and bringing a synergy, and this wonderful thing is happening.
That's wonderful. And I think that your ministry giving the training and accreditation will help people to then decide that these are the places that one can go to learn yoga in an authentic way. I thought it's very interesting that you were a physicist and then you turned to yoga. And in doing my research about you, I heard you talk about Einstein and how the theory of relativity and yoga have a lot in common. And I'm sure you've heard about this wonderful conversation that Rabindranath Tagore had with Einstein, and it was in the 1930s. And they're talking about the nature of reality as seen through yoga. And Einstein is saying that there is no objective reality, and Rabindranath Tagore is saying that there is no reality unless there is me to witness that reality. And he quotes very extensively from the yogic traditions. So could you highlight for us how yoga and science, you know, we think of India as yoga is the science of the mind, body, and spirit, but it's not very clear to people, although increasingly now it is. In your opinion, how is yoga a science?
Yes, very relevant question, Preeti, and I am very fascinated to ask about the conversation between Einstein and Ravindraji. And before you proceed, whether it is a poet or a scientist or a musician who have reached excellence in their life, achieved excellence, they are yogis. So they are not practicing pranayama and meditation, wearing some glass, wearing that. They are not yogis. The real yogis are Einstein was a yogi, Ravindranath was yogi, Bhimsen Joshi is a yogi, any politician, our honorable prime minister, in my opinion, he's a yoga person, he's a yogi. Because their life is completely devoted for the ultimate cause of life. So this is one thing I found. Second one is, so when you talk about, people say yoga is essentially spiritual. This is my statement, always I flag it. Yoga is essentially spiritual. But what does it mean by spirituality? So unless you have the empirical knowledge and the rational thinking, you cannot experience the spirituality. Therefore, what is that empirical knowledge? It's the scientific. Scientific means you are given a data, it's going on. But this is a subtle science. So you are not confined to your only sense perceptions, but you are crossing the limits of the senses and go to the reasoning. So where we have a republic, analyzing capacity. That's why in yoga, so when you come up to the body, gross body, the system, and we had given it a panchakosha, we had given a chakras, we have nadi, and if you give me 1 hour, definitely I will put it in all the physics mechanics formula. So how our fundamental forces are acting on our body. When I'm doing Tadasana, what type of force is happening. When I do pranayama shitali, how the thermodynamics is going to happen. When I'm meditating, I will give you the quantum mechanics, how this single dimensions can be achieved. So being a science student of physics, I'm still happy to say that I'm a student of physics because physics is a very fascinating subject for me. So when it is said that it's not difficult for me to understand from jumping from the gross body to the subtle body like prana, mind. People say if you go to the psychiatrist, mind is in our brain. Mind is not in our brain. Mind is in the higher plane of substance. Then how to reach that? Suppose in the superconductivity, if you have a superconductor, a train will not run on the rail, but they will float on the rail. So like this is the one layer where the prana comes. So when you breathe, that's the science. That's why we have to strengthen the body, lungs to the heart, heart to the vagus. When it's vagus is channelized, that's a neuron transmits that one waves. So that is prana. So that's why when you practice that awareness of that wave is the prana. We have to control, regulate of prana that is reached to the mind. So mind, when it is, mind has 2 dimensions. When it is attached to the senses and it will go outward, it is rajasic, it is moving. Mind is always moving. Mind never become quiet. But yoga helps us to withdraw your senses, make stable your mind, and it is sattvic or the purity. When his mind is pure and only you are touching the higher dimensions of intelligence. So intelligence is a discrimination. Discrimination means nitya, anitya, what we wake up, which is true, which is not true. We cannot discriminate. That means, so it's a pure science, then only it is. Einstein is talking about spirituality. He's a scientist, but he's a rationalist. He's
Yeah.
objective thinker.
I
Then,
think
what do you want?
scientists are better
Only
equipped.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, only one thing. I will complete. I understand the time limits. So that means yoga is a complete science, but it is not in the Roman language. It is our chakras, Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Om, Ram, Reem. It don't have its connotations, its language, its symbols. So, but we need to understand. Many people, Westerners or foreigners, they come and understand. They accept it as a very not science only. It's the science, subtle science, where it go to the higher planes of existence.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for explaining that. I want to take this now to the High Commissioner again. I don't know if you heard the other day, the Dalai Lama, just the day before yesterday, it has been running. He has been talking about how in the Indian education system, he says the biggest revival that needs to happen is our the ancient wisdom tradition that we have, but for it to be taught in a scientific and secular term. So the two of you, one of you as an ambassador of India globally, and you having this in India, in this institution to spread the word of yoga. Do you think that there is any possibility that our curriculum in India and around the world can adopt yoga as a proper subject to teach the science of the mind and the body?
Well, I think first of all, let me say I wholeheartedly agree with Dr. Ishwar Basavaraddi. I think we tend to define science in the way we have understood science to be from a very Western perspective. Now, you see, there is a reason for it also, because I mean, there's nothing taking away from the advances science, the way we understand it in the West, has made, the progress that we have achieved, and the benefits that it has brought to humankind over the last 300 years. But please understand also that it was also a reflection of the kind of political, economic, cultural, and technological and military power that is cumulative, comprehensive power that a particular set of countries wield, which also, in a sense, creates a particular universal application of methods of understanding things, of inquiry, of truth. Now, it applies to medicine also. So ultimately, when we think of either Ayurveda, or we think of Unani, when we think of Siddha and things, we've always treated them as alternative, because it is alternative to mainstream. And that, as usually the world is changing and becoming more multipolar, and as Asia rediscovers itself, it becomes more confident of its own histories, its traditions, its own wisdom accumulated over centuries, it's going to be able to look at it differently. And it is essential to understand what Dr. Ishwar was saying is that you have to get out of those notions of seeing it as ancient or modern terms. You have to understand it in terms of forces. In terms of forces, that is because our consciousness is not capable of seeing it, doesn't mean they don't exist. And what he's saying about ultimate benefit of yoga is when every moment is you are in a state. It is not that you get up and practice it for 45 minutes and then you go back to living the life you do. So that comes over. I mean, I can't say that we are even anywhere close to it, but theoretically one understands where this all leads to and what he was trying to achieve. So I think first, and you have to take it away from religious connotations or any particular spirit. I mean, it is part of our spiritual tradition, it is Indian spiritual tradition, but it is not dogmatic. It is not confined to any particular, religion in the sense we understand. Right. And therefore, it is something which is expression of every Indian and now part of anyone who wants to understand it. And to bring it into the curriculum is something which should be there. It is like when you were taught civics.
Yes.
So I think you have to take it out of any particular, and Prime Minister has also said it many times, that, it is not something which is, confined by any particular religion, by any sort of, it is something which developed in India. It is a gift of India, but it has to be seen in that light. And I think it could therefore become part of, certainly it is becoming part of curriculum in India, in schools, in colleges. But I think you would be amazed to know how it is being now sort of integrated into practices in the West also. So US Marines use it, right? Okay, there are force that are supposed to be violent, but they take the most important benefits from it. Now, the world's now top-ranked tennis player, Djokovic.
Yeah.
Desai is becoming a vegan, and he does meditation and yoga. Now, and so it has helped him regroup himself from where he had plummeted, from being the top-ranked player to one who was not able to find his direction, who was uncertain, who thought everything was lost, he was thinking of giving up tennis. So he found something. Now, I think you can see more and more mainstreaming of this. But it is also important, and I wanted to touch on some very important points he raised. One is that, and you also brought this up, that it is also easy for something like this to then get mutated into forms, and it takes it completely away from you. Now, it has in some sense also become part of cults in the United States, or has become an exotic product differentiation strategy for those who have this fitness centers. You hear all kinds of versions of yoga, which actually, I mean, has nothing to do with. You can't take 10 poses and tell people to do that and say this is yoga. So certification is important and can never divorce it from its fundamental spiritual scientific dimension. Otherwise, you may as well do other kinds of exercises, and it can lead to damage also. So I'm very firmly of the view that we in India need to be able to, and you said beautifully that culture cannot be regulated. If it is regulated, it will wither away. It will die, as government regulations make many things wither. But it needs to have certain kind of a standard, certain kind of something. There's an element of authenticity to it, because we may end up doing great disservice to it also. That is also important.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, an important point, and I'm glad kind of thing, the scale on which they are working on certification, etc. It's just extraordinary. We now need to actually start entering into agreements with other countries to be able to take this abroad, to have a certain sense of recognition, and it's not difficult. We are doing that with Ayurveda in certain countries. Mention about protocols. I think, all those protocols you can find on our mission website as well. And you'll also see videos of Prime Minister doing it. We have all the yoga protocols that they have developed, the videos that they have made. All of those are available on the mission website. And I would strongly encourage everyone to adopt them and to use them, that resource on our website as well. And we've been also tweeting and putting it on social media as well. Yeah.
So I'd like to bring in Sujata on the conversation. Sujata, you are a wonderful practitioner and teacher of yoga. How do you see, what kind of yoga are you teaching, and how do you see the response amongst your students, and especially in this time of coronavirus? Has it helped them? What has their reaction been?
Thank you, Preeti. At the outset, I want to congratulate His Excellency Shri Javed Ashrafji and Dr. Basavaraddi, because these have been two amazing, the organizations behind and the force that they have been. For both of them, it is not their job description to be so involved. I just want to share with you the backstage of what happened before. So please understand that this is in the context of COVID-19, where already there's so many other things to deal with. And about 3-4 weeks ago, His Excellency Javed Ashrafji invited certain organizations to come up with ideas. Personally, was accessible on the phone every time. It's just been enormously enriching to be working very closely with him. He's been the driving force and really inspiring for all of us. The entire team at the High Commission has been superb in terms of how they have, really given the multiple demands on them at this time, particularly. They have been enormously supportive, and more than supportive, inspiring us to do more and do the best that we possibly can. Particularly given the situation, this particular 6th IDY has been very different. So I've had the honor of, addressing 25,000 people from Rajpath, where we did it live with Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga in Delhi. And this year has been very different because we have gone online. So this is, almost everyone has been logging in from where they are. But the idea of how people have reacted this time has been enormous, because given the stress, given the loneliness, given the situation that people have around them at this time, yoga has all the tools to help negotiate these uncertainties. So it has come through as an enormous beneficial tool for each person. The other enormously positive impact that has happened is that people from across the world have been able to join. So earlier, the geographical, geopolitical situation would never allow for us. So just yesterday, the webinars that we hosted, we had 5 experts from 5 different continents, 5 different countries, people joining in with so much enthusiasm. It has been rare. It would take enormous resources to get that scale of participation. So that has been quite amazing. As well, at a personal level, people have found that they could relate to these practices, and that it gives them the tools to not give up, to not despair, and to concretely allow for things, concrete modules like breathing practices and such. So that has been the very positive fallout of this in some ways. And it has highlighted how yoga is sustainable, that it could be, people joining in from Thailand to Japan to Jaipur to Bangalore. It's just been a treat to be offering these across the last few days, particularly. It's free, it's accessible, and most of this is recorded and accessible to the viewers who will be watching. We are live on Facebook, so please, I know that there are many more people watching us live on Facebook than here. So tools like modules that you can actually use, asking experts, this has been an explosion. It's almost like we have evolved with technology to be able to offer the most amazing virtual celebration of IDY. So I think full credit to both organizations, that Javedji and Dr. Basavaraddi both free ahead. So that energy has been just amazing.
I could not agree more with you, Sujata. And as devastating as this pandemic has been, in some sense, just like yoga, it has broken boundaries of culture, of time, of geography, and has given us, enabled through technology to come together in ways that has been unprecedented. And I think with institutions and organizations like, that you are heading, Dr. Ishwar, in India, we can look forward to, in Singapore and all the countries around the world, to programming that you will offer to us, that we can practice on a daily basis. So with that, I think I'd like to open this for Q&A to our viewers. Sujata, if that's okay. And I'd like to welcome Amita Chaudhury to this discussion. Again, she's a yoga and wellness enthusiast and a senior advisor on sustainability for the United Nations Global Compact. Welcome, Amita.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Preeti. And it's really an honor to be actually addressing this illustrious panel today, although I have to say we've got very short time. But I'm here to field the questions as my dear friend Sujata requested me to do. So I'm going to get straight into it. We've got about 9 questions. I think we might be able to take a couple or 3. So I'm going to start first with, just stay with you, Sujata, from mass movements to individual level. This is from Anita Sen Gupta. She's asking, can a certain pose help reconcile our thoughts and feelings towards a positive direction? And is there a point you need to stop yourself from going in too deep within that you lose yourself? So 2 questions in one. Thank you.
It is a profound question. Thank you, Anita, wherever you're signing in from. It's a brilliant question, and I wish there were a magic pill that you would just pop in and it would be the it. I would say if there was one posture, I would ask for 2 actually. The one posture I would say is just sitting comfortably. So audience, if you just would like to join me, just sit upright, just sit straight. If you're slouching in a sofa or a couch or a chair, just peel the back off the chair and just lift the shoulders up towards your ears and roll them back and down. Just this one thing. And then gently close your eyes and unclench your lower jaw. Soften the back of your eyes at this time and just begin to tune into the breath as it spontaneously rises and falls. So this just the act of the simple joy of sitting. This embodied practice of wisdom, it'll just allow you to come back to the present moment. It won't change what is around you, but will change your response. So just give yourself 3 breaths to breathe in and breathe out. Return to the present moment without judgment, inviting a sense of peace and happiness to yourself. So just this simple act of doing this, and of course, lift the sides of your lips. So you're smiling as you do that with a pure positive energy as you breathe in. As you exhale, let go of that which no longer serves you. So this would be my one sort of posture. And since I asked for 2, I would say a deep relaxation, because we are so keyed up, particularly in urban spaces. We just don't give ourselves time to unwind. We think of ourselves as being unproductive if we aren't doing anything. So my gentle suggestion to those of you viewing would be to give yourself a timeout, or to allow the body, inviting the rest and relaxation mechanisms. The body is incredibly powerful in the way that it heals itself. If only you give it that little option to do that. You know, most of us are practicing Netflix asana more than any other right now. So I'd encourage you to, when you do rest, please rest with a certain sense of awareness. So deep relaxation happens with awareness as well as relaxation. So I would say combine the two. So when you are seated, do what you are doing with a sense of awareness. As well, when you are lying down, feel free to relax and rest. I think these 2 would be my go-to postures to do, and how not to go too deep into it so you lose yourself. Here comes a teaching from the Buddhist and Indian meditation techniques. This is the positioning of the eyes. So if you are feeling a lot of aggression or intense emotions, then keeping your eyes closed will actually stir up some of those emotions. And I would recommend not closing your eyes, keeping them open or half open, and engaging in the present moment with that sense of kindness, and using adversity as an opportunity to turn inward. So wherever you are in the world, I know that you may be locked down, you may be in a situation where there are lots of constraints, you're away from your loved ones, but use that opportunity then to go inward. Turn inward to yourself and look at this enormous reservoir of treasure that you will find within being yourself. So I'd encourage you to do that. But great question, that one. Thank
Sujata,
you,
I'd
Amita.
like to, if you don't mind, bring in Dr. Ishwar on this, because the question is about a yogic pose, and I was listening to your talk, and you said with the pose, it is essential in yoga to practice with the breath, with the mantra, and with the drishti. So could you tell our question a little bit about that, how to stay in the pose
Yeah.
with those techniques?
Yes. Sujata has answered, but I have to add a few more. The whole yoga practice will make you to action in relaxation. Not you are sitting, you are drinking the tea, you are taking a meal, or you are eating. Now I am sitting, I am not at all making any efforts to sit properly. So my position has become automatic. Because the 45 minutes or 1 hour of my practice, I have inculcated my entire yogic principles. Whenever a posture is bent, there is a vinyasa. So in vinyasa means there is a step by step. Each vinyasa has a breathing pattern. So then each vinyasa has the shvasakrama, that is breathing. Then second one is the moment, your drishti, your awareness. What we call it as a drishti, but it is awareness. Then it comes to the sthiti. We have to maintain that posture for comfortable time. We call it in English, in Sanskrit, yatha shakti. According to one's capacity, he has to maintain. Then he has to feel the vishanti, the relaxation in the final stage itself. So that means every day I am doing it 45 minutes or 1 hour of yoga. So I am training my entire nervous system, autonomous nervous system, to do that. So you need not to make an extra effort in the next 23 hours. So next 23 hours has been taken care of in this, but in the beginning, so you have to make a regime. It may take, so it will not happen in a day or two, it will take minimum 3 to 6 months. So once you adapt it, it will become a part of your lifestyle. So therefore, whenever you sit, it's properly you are sitting and your vision is clear, you are relaxing always, action and reaction. That's a free flow. Yoga is a freedom. So unless you have a freedom, because every time your awareness, oh, I have to sit like this, I have to breathe like this. So this kind of these things is not yoga. Yoga is freedom. Freedom means It is Anushasana in a systematic way you have trained, but even it's a training to your entire nervous system, autonomous nervous system. So then it become a part of your life. So there is no extra efforts you're putting in a day.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think Dr. Basavaraddi, you in one answer, you've actually answered a number of different questions. People are asking whether, how do you know if you're pushing yourself hard enough for yoga, or if you recommend one yoga practice above all, and you just answered the question, one answer that really responds to all the different questions. So I know we're sort of almost out of time, but I'm going to ask just one question to High Commissioner Javed Ashraf ji. I was really struck by the fact that he said that in his opening address, Mr. Modi ji talked about how yoga is going to help build better societies and a sustainable planet. And that inception of this was in 2014 at the UN General Assembly. And just a year later, as you might know, the SDGs were endorsed, or Sustainable Development Goals were endorsed by 193 nations as a blueprint for sustainable development for 2030. So I wanted to ask, with all the growth that yoga has seen that you've described so eloquently, if you had to put a target for 2030 for yoga practice, what would that be?
Sorry, target for yoga practice in terms of number?
Well, SDGs have 169 targets. There are 17 sustainable development goals, and there is, and so as a part.
Well, I think with this, we have maybe retreated a bit in our pursuit. I mean, pandemic of the Sustainable Development Goals 2017. But the reason he said that it could lead us to a better world is because you practice yoga a lot of, that's part of the Indian philosophy also. You really do not look for external crutches for sort of satisfaction, for gratification. You are a centered, grounded human being. Your need for external means to kind of keep yourself, like a kick that you need every day, is going to come down. And therefore, it can lead to a more frugal and a more sustainable lifestyle. And imagine if at least half the world population, or even 25% of the world population adopted that, what a difference it will make. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean in classical economic sense that there'll be a demand contraction and therefore there will be an economic slowdown and job losses and recession. It will take different forms. And it channels your energies in different directions and in different pursuits. That's one. And second, if you are generally, as ultimately it's human beings who aggregate to a society, community, and then communities aggregate to a nation. And if the general worldview is now, it's like sort of you reduce your sense of ego, vanities, aggression, self-aggrandizement, those overweening, vaulting ambitions, then perhaps it will also affect the ways countries can. It's an exotic, esoteric idea, but one that is actually something that is why, the Indian civilization or the Indian cultural tradition came up with these, that these are means to better human beings, to a better world around us. And therefore, we can try and put this into practice. Now, at least it creates a consciousness by his speaking about it. It creates a consciousness for people to think in these directions, right? Or, for example, you can talk about solar energy as a means to sort of fight climate change and global warming. But solar energy requires a lot of, it's also resource intensive, and you don't even know what kind of environmental damage that's once those solar panels outlive their lives of 20 years will create, and how are we going to deal with it. So it's also about, therefore, not substituting one form of problem with another, but finding a way to avoid all those what we need the problem. I think that was the holistic worldview in which he was speaking about it. And I'm sure that if we all practice it in some indirect and direct way, we will be contributing towards achievement of the SDGs. because it's also really changes your life in perspective. It certainly will make for, on the metric of health, we will do much better. On sustainability, we will do much better. On conservation, we will do much better, right? And perhaps a more equitable society as well. But I think instead of this, we will be more fascinated to hear in the remaining time that we have two grand experts that we have, and to answer some very interesting questions like the first one. And there's a lot of very interesting questions about practice of yoga also. And one question that I have always wondered, and it is this, that is it possible to, because yoga, like everything else, requires understanding of the individual, like in Ayurveda, and you have to do it correctly. Like you do anything, to play a sport, you have to do it correctly. So is it possible to work with a group of, say, 50 or 100? Or is it necessary to have small groups where, yoga instructor can pay individual attention? Because that's a very important thing.
Okay, Ishwar, please come in on that.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. Yoga is a self-experience, in my opinion. Whenever you start yoga, and you should have a one-to-one teaching, I prefer. So one-to-one teaching is able to understand me, his physiology. We talk about science, and 100% we are following the science. We are only correlating with the modern science. Yoga science is also correlating with the modern science. So that's why the physiology, the pranic energy, because every individual is a special being. So he's a unique, as his composition is unique. So to motivate and make him to follow the principles of yoga, in the beginning we need the individual training is very much essential to make it understand the principles and practices fun. But once we get acquainted with the principles and practices, we can make a smaller groups of, I prefer one teacher can handle around 30 people very effectively. But if it is a therapy, we cannot. So 30 people group, one teacher can handle it. But sometime nowadays, I also take 200 people at a time. So there I cannot concentrate. It's just mass training to motivate them. But education, yoga as an education, a teacher cannot teach effectively more than 20 or maximum 30 people, according to my experience. But this is the classroom. But when you come to the beginners, and always it is one-to-one, at least for 3 weeks to 6 weeks, so that they inculcated it, then they can correct themselves when you go to the group. In 30 also, I cannot address, because I have only 1 or 2 minutes to teach one practice. 30 people, I cannot correct it. But out of 30 people, only 2-3 corrections are needed. I can do it, because I already motivated them and made them to understand. Even one small signal correct all 30 people. That's why these two principles are there.
I wanted to ask you a quick question also about this, because we have been sort of inculcated in the yoga tradition in India, but many people are confused about bhakti yoga, kriya yoga, karma yoga, and jnana yoga, and whether there should be a sequential path to it, or can you approach it all at the same time? So how do you train your teachers in this process, and how should we begin to practice it?
No, if you, they are not, each school has some fundamentals and goals. But I will take you how I approach it. Suppose I am practicing Uttarasana. In Uttarasana, I have the knowledge of Uttarasana. What is Jnana Yoga? It is the Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka. The discrimination power I had, whether my posture is correct or not. So that knowledge itself is a Jnana Yoga, knowledge about your body. So then what is the Bhakti Yoga? It is the unconditional love. So, and you have to love your body. You are not listening to your body. Your body is paining, and it is said that don't stretch more, but you are not listening to. Your teacher says, oh, pull it up. So like this you are doing it. Then you love your body and you listen to your body. That is the love. Love is inculcated in us. Then it comes to the Karma Yoga. What is Karma? Selfless action. You are doing it very systematically. Every day you are doing Uttarasana, effort after effort. But you are dropping the body at the end. Prayatna Shaitilya Ananta Samapatti. The principle I am inculcating in the daily practice, I need not to teach you the practice of jnana, bhakti, karma, and etc. Then what is that in the pranayama, in Hatha Yoga, what is that? I'm bringing the alignment of the breathing. And ultimately in the final stage, you are in the Sthita Prajna. So Jnana, Bhakti, Karma has been inculcated and they have been integrated. So only thing, some special practices, they have been developed. But in the entire yoga, a good teacher inculcated all these principles in teaching yoga postures, pranayama or meditation. In meditation, if you take, I'm sitting, I have a Jnana Yoga component, I have a Bhakti Yoga component, I have a Karma Yoga component. Then only yoga happens. A real yogi is a total all the Jnana, Bhakti, Karma, Jnana and Pranic, that is Hatha Yoga.
Thank you. You really
That's a
explained
wonderful
for
question.
the first time that within doing the yoga asanas, you can bring all of these elements to play.
Yes. That's one more thing is when you do yogasana, with each movement, suppose I am addressing my lumbosacral region. So there are some bhavas. So there is a bhava of bhaya, then there is a bhava of like this. So in every moment, we bring that bhava. With that bhava, because it's a emotional culture. So whether you are expanding the chest, I bring the heart, that is the emotional. So I am doing it in the Paschimottanasana, it is the Swadhisthana chakra, and our life forces are reproductive organs are involved in that. So what kind of bhava I have to bring in that? So these are all very fine tuned. It has not been taught in a fitness center.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the idea of bhava is very beautiful. It's, we think of emotion as something you bring to theater or to a poetry recitation, but if practiced properly in the true spirit, I think it has to be done in the yogic practice as well. I am aware of the fact that we are running out of time, and I just want to thank you all so very much, especially.
Maybe Amita could run through some of the questions, because there's one very interesting question at the bottom, which perhaps Dr. Ishwar could answer. The last question, which talks, Amita, about cancer recurrence and what can be done.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, great. I'll just quickly recite it.
Because I'm sure whoever's asked this really needs help on that.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Ishwar Basavaraddi, the question is, can yoga help reduce the chance of cancer recurrence? And any specific posture or practices could you recommend? This is by Zima.
Yes, there are many yogic practices like this asana, pranayama, kriya, dhyana, bandha, etc. And each group we have hundreds of practices. But I have three things for cancer. One is occurrence, preventing the cancer. They are prone for the cancer, so genetically or something like that, where we have a group of some 30 minutes package. So that has been developed, that will help us to prevent it. But once we have a cancer, so we don't, because cancer is a different thing, but rehabilitation of cancer patients, we did it in thousands. So where we adopt a pranic energization technique, it's simple. You start with the abdominal breathing, thoracic breathing, and slowly improve the lungs capacity and come to the 27 to 30 times alternative nostril breathing. So it will just bring, it's a massage kind of thing, and it is not just breathing. So then there is no friction, that will create a kind of energy. It's a very special technique, and definitely it will help to regenerate the cells, because once you undergone, there is a radiotherapy and the chemotherapy, all these things, and its life is miserable. So I've seen many patients personally. So regenerate, it takes 3 months. So my previous secretary, she was having a breast cancer, and ultimately within 3 months, I have an opportunity to treat her. Now she retired almost 15 years back. She is very healthy and living a very good life. Like this, I can give many. But one thing, when we have a very serious fourth stage or something, where we have especially intestinal cancers or something, where doing asanas are very, very dangerous. When lifting of these things is a thing. So that means you need expertise and medical both combined together. Even in the third stage also, we have imparted yoga training along with the medication. But in the final stages, it's very difficult to perform them yogasanas. There we are relaxation, yoga nidra of 18 to 20 minutes. It's a very systematized relaxative technique. But one major incident, if we have a time, I have one, my teacher in the 1991, she was suffering from the bone cancer. So she was being treated every minute, it's a paining like anything. So where even she said that Basavaraddi, you are coming and just sitting, I will happy. You are teaching me Yoga Nidra, but even I cannot because every second is paining. Thousand snails are biting me like that. So such type of very dangerous deadly disease like cancer is, in that case, the humanitarian well, the approach you give it, the affection you show, the teacher show to the patient, because sometime after chemotherapy, they feel something different psychological state. The teacher plays an important role, the pranayama plays an important role, the emotional bonding you develop and bring them out of that psychological trauma, that's more important, rehabilitate the cancer patients. Here I strongly recommend some small this one, like this can sit. This will cleanse our frontal sinus. So even all these things. Then you do the Nadi Shodhana Pranayama. Because Kapalbhati sometimes it doesn't. These two and deep relaxation, 30 times. It takes some time, you will go into the alpha range. I will show it in practically. I did it auto these things. When you do it and relax and sitting and just observe the abdominal movement for 27 to 30 times, the patient goes into the alpha. That is the state where it will overcome the anxiety and depression.
Thank you.
I'll just add on to that.
I hope I answer.
I think that was beautifully addressed. I would just like to add one more technique to it. If you are in a lot of pain, I have found in my experience and also a lot of research to back it, is the sound resonance technique. So if you have access to nothing, if you're in enormous pain physically, I would suggest, if nothing else, you have access to just this humming sound. You don't need to do anything else. Just retreat and direct that sound to the space where you have pain, and allow that sound resonance, because it's at a cellular level that we are looking at healing, at promoting healing. So while one size doesn't fit all, and really there are many kinds of cancers and things, but I would highly recommend this one technique, which is accessible to all, easy to practice. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Dr. Ishwar Basavaraddi. And Sujata, Seema says, thanks a lot for addressing my cancer-related question. Much appreciated. And I just want to say thank you, High Commissioner, for pointing it out that I wish they should answer this question. There are a number of questions which we can't answer today because of time. But Sujata, I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for us to just make a list and then respond to them at a later time. Yeah.
Yes, sure. I think, if you do have questions, it's always wonderful for us to, answer them offline. If you need to reach us. Dr. Basavaraddi is enormously busy, but I'm sure that he can always make time for Singapore, because he has a special place in his heart for Singapore. And so I'm sure that he will make time to address questions. I do think that, when we look at this particular IDY and how we can go forward from it. So, IDY is great as an event, but sustainability in terms of how you are able to continue to practice. And I would encourage both agencies, the Indian High Commission here, as well as the Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga in Delhi, to, we do like to celebrate this because it's a big event, the world celebrates it. But going forward, I think looking at consistent practice through the year, because, the very definition of asana is stiram sukham asaram. Stira is just stable, sukha is just happy, and asana is just practicing what you do. But consistent practice, consistent discipline, and I think that is what leads to transformation. So, rolling out your mat, wearing a yoga t-shirt and, shouting off the rooftops is great. But to be very honest and frank, it is the daily practice and discipline, sustained practices. So I just have one line to say: you aspire, you perspire, and you inspire. So you aspire to be your best, perspire a little bit on the mat, because it does take effort. It is tapas. It is, not the Spanish one, but the Sanskrit version of tapas. You practice it, and you inspire others, whether it's your own self. So you start out with yourself, your family, your community, and you know, it's a language that everyone speaks. Yoga is not a foreign language anymore. It crosses boundaries, it goes everywhere. So I'd highly encourage people to look beyond just today, beyond this conference, and look at ways you can really sustain it. And we are here to support, we are here to really make that difference. That's our purpose for existence. This is why we exist. This is why we are what we are, and we do what we do. So I truly hope that, you know, people can turn toward this direction, so they are not only, you know, it's not survive but revive and thrive, even, you know, given whatever it is. I think that's what I would say.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sujata. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Dr. Ishwar, you wanted to say something?
If it is concluding, and I would like to say only one or two sentences. Are you concluding?
Yes, I think we have to.
Yes. 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 First of all, I thank His Excellency Javed sir, and first time I'm Sujata speak about sir, and we just heard about him, but it's very pleasure, and it's, I think so. The knowledge about Indian system of knowledge which we speak, and it's motivating for us, sir. Definitely, we'll look forward to meet you that you are somewhere in the days to come. And now, after COVID, the world has been changed. It will take some time to get back again. It will not remain forever, but if say one trauma has come, it will take up some time. But during the time, we have a lot of responsibility as individuals and as government. These things, and I have a lot of opportunity to meet a very best diplomats, and I think so. He will add on to my list of respectable diplomats I have been associated. Will continue this association. And Sujata is a wonderful human being, and always is working hard to promote and upgrading her knowledge. She is very receptive, and I thank both of them. And also Preeti, you are so wonderful and coordinating well, and giving me some space to talk. Usually, anchor is more important, and you have given a lot of scope for me to express my views, and also another my friend and all the viewers, etc. Thank you, and it's a great opportunity for me to interact with you as an individual and also from Government of India. Thank you very much, sir, and Sujata and Preeti and all of you. Namaste.
Thank you so much.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you very much for the gift of your time and wisdom. And we'd like to conclude with that, with the commitment that we will practice yoga and we will offer and spread it more and more to the world. Thank you so much, our viewers, and thank you to all our speakers. Pranam.
Thank you very much. Javed Ashrafji, this is going to be a goodbye, but I hope not for long, because you're leaving to go to France, and it's heartbreaking because, you know, we feel like we, you know, it's personally as well as professionally, I think it's going to be a huge vacuum. And we will miss you very, very much. So I would like for you to send a message to all yoga practitioners and enthusiasts who are watching. If you could just have one takeaway message for us. Thank you.
I'm going to repeat what you said, that don't treat this as an annual event like a festival. Make yoga a part of your daily life. It should come naturally to you, to a point where you and Dr. Ishwar Basavaraddi has said, it's just not something you are actually consciously doing, it just becomes part of you. Even when you are sitting, when you are working, when you're breathing. And when we reach that state, we have really attained what yoga inspires us to. But for that, as you said, the three words, aspire, perspire, and inspire, that we have to do it till it comes naturally to us. And I would always say that if you can't do all the aspects, pranayama is an amazing elixir of life. It can deal with so many issues. It can give you a great start to a day. It can bring big changes to your life, and at least something that everyone should learn, even if they find doing all the asanas difficult. But in each of you who does yoga will be a great contributor to a healthier world and to a healthier community in society, and you'll see the difference in yourself. So keep doing it every day. The purpose of IDY is to make you do this every day. right? So to everyone here, but I'd like to say also that for me, it's always very going to be hard to leave Singapore. It's been just absolutely wonderful to be here. And among all the joys of living in Singapore, working in Singapore, it's been astonishing Indian community. The world's most talented, connected, committed community you will ever see. There's no field where I haven't found the most extraordinary people, world class, absolutely, and willing to be willing to contribute, willing to be part of every enterprise. This is what gives us strength, gives me inspiration, and gives me the confidence to pursue the things that we do over here. I'm sure we'll remain in touch. And this technology means that space and time are all getting blurred, as we all see. And I'd like to thank Dr. Basavaraddi. I look forward to a discussion with you on science in yoga because I mean it was just fascinating how you explained it. I have great interest in maths and physics too, and though I didn't study it at college university level. But you're doing a great work because you are really framing it in a modern idiom. That is very important to get it across to our younger people. And for them to then draw them into their way of thinking to understanding what it really is. And with the Institute, it is an absolutely, I know I was in the Prime Minister's office, how much we value your institution and look forward to interacting with you in Paris and learning from you. And of course, Sujata, again, since the time I've met you, I mean, I'm just astonished by what led you to this path and what you have been able to achieve in this. Preeti, thank you. And Amita, thank you also for being part of this and moderating this session. Again, a very fascinating one. It makes you want to continue. And I know this time is short. But please, Sujata, with the benefit of this technology, do it once a month, once 2 months. You can take a theme, every time to talk about medical. I think we had a very important question. Can you imagine what that means to Seema to be able to get some answer to a question that is troubling her? So similarly, you can pick up a theme, ask, whenever somebody has time and do this, and it would be a great help. I think now people are getting used to attending conferences in webinar form.
So I will make that commitment, and I promise you and everyone here that I will host it once a month. And try my best. So this is a gift that I think I will, and I will invite you from regardless of where you are.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
that's a gift that I will ask in return, that you will
Yeah.
always continue, regardless of where you may be in Paris or wherever else. But this is one forum that will always have you then. So I think then to our viewers, this is not the end, this is the beginning of a series that we will host every month. And I'm sure that this will be of benefit to everyone, Dr. Basavaraddi as well. So if I have the blessing of both these giants, I'm sure that we can gift and create this as a pathway to health, happiness, and well-being in a holistic manner. Ayurveda talks about dinacharya and ritucharya. So when the ritu of IDY gets over, we still continue to be holistic and well together with each other. What do you say? Shall we pledge that then?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
So thank you again all very, very much. This has been personally one of the best Zoom seminars that I have participated in. We have learned so much, and I hope that we continue to stay in touch with both of you, and that both of you continue to inspire us and millions across the world to pursue this path of yoga that will ultimately lead to wellness and the health and healing that the planet really needs today. Thank you so much. For now.